Ladies and gentlemen, and anyone else who is here, my name is Amour, and you are listening to the Black Man Talking Emotions podcast. This is the third and final best of season 2 episode of the year. I'm just very happy that you hung on with us this long and you listened to the episodes. I appreciate each and every one of y'all for taking time to support me, and something that I really hold dear to my heart. I really love doing this show. I really love these conversations. I enjoy catching up with my friends and being able to put them on a platform where people can hear real people having honest conversation about things that you don't really normally get to see on TV or in the way that I'm doing it. So I'm just very happy to be in this position and to be able to host my own show. And this is the end of season 2. Going into season 3 next year is going to be a blast. So thank you once again. And I don't need to talk to you anymore, folks. We're going to get into it. I'll let you know who is who at the end of the episode. Just enjoy the conversation. I found myself, like I said, in a really good headspace this year. And Adrian and I have been sharing just as much as we always have. Like, that hasn't never really been a problem with us. We'll talk to each other. But since I'm doing the work on me, I think I'm starting to also notice how it's affecting others. There was this video I saw with James Baldwin. He was speaking to his lady, and the line that really stuck out to me was she wanted him to pretend that he was fine. And he was like, no, I'm honest with you. I tell you everything. And she was like, but you don't have to do that. You put on this front for white people and for your boss all day long, and then you come home and I got to take all the hell. I got to take all the negative energy you are holding it in all day. Hold it in for me too. Show me that you are willing to do the work to at least make me happy and be positive for me, instead of coming home and being angry at everyone else and me getting that angry energy. I want you at your best, just like you give them, even though you don't want to give them your best. Give it to me because you want to give me your best. Even if the day was hard, even if the person took advantage of you, are you willing to do the work at home to make that person who you love happy? And you can do that while also being honest with them about what's going on at work.
Right.
It could be a shitty day, and you can come home and talk about your shitty day, but then also you can rub her back and tell her about how important this time speaking with her is, and how important being with her and seeing her is, because it makes everything okay.
Right.
Now, what do you want me to do? Let's make dinner. Let's go out. Let's go do this, because that's the true important relationship. That boss is going to replace you the day that you leave.
Right.
That boss, if you pass away, find someone else to do your job. That boss is going to always push you towards the limit of, I want to leave this place, because they don't need anything other than you to work. That's what their goal is. I'm your boss. Your job is to work and give us the most that we possibly can get out of you at the base price that we're agreed upon, until we try to either make another agreement or tell you, hey, there's no price that you can get other than what you're getting. If you don't want it, we'll get someone else.
Right.
Always comes down to that. So if that person's job is just to work you and to not truly care about the other stuff, but the other person's job is to be there for you and make you better and to love you and to push you and to share interests and to add to your life and help you create a family and help you build an empire. Why wouldn't you give them that energy? And this interview was decades ago. This wasn't something that had just been posted. This isn't something that was in the 2000s. It wasn't even in the 90s or 80s. I think this was like in the 70s. It was a long time ago, and they were talking this way then. And so you have all of this time in between, these decades, these horrible working environments. The idea we've had 2 decades of no change in minimum wage. Everything is higher in cost, but we're not being paid anymore. We're literally being paid the same amount we were paid then. Some people are reaping the benefits, others aren't. In this work environment, in this world, in this climate, it's even more important to put the people who got your back, who live and die for you first.
Right.
Working on me has helped me continue to work on that and to push that into a better area and to continue to improve on what we want for our future. In what ways do you feel like you are working, struggling, maybe not doing it right, maybe doing it right? How are you improving your relationship every day?
Trying to be there in ways of acts of service, essentially.
Yeah.
I can't control the day at work for my partner, but I know if I'm able to take care of some things so she's not worried about that, I'm trying my best to.
Is that her main love language?
Yes, I believe it's that. And so just making sure that I'm there and also trying to be present in our times together. It's hard to put the phone down, especially because we are very much social media artists as far as, that is important because it shows to your other that the time that you're spending with them means more than, what you're kind of working on at that point.
Yeah.
And so just making sure I'm present. I think in past relationships, my dream was very important as far as not coming first, but essentially like, this is something I need to take care of. And both of us need to be doing this together. I've been now more conscious of making sure that I have time dedicated to the relationship and tying our dreams together. Just making sure that we're asking each other, hey, what are you trying to attain this week, or what have you done, and celebrating in the accomplishments of things, and then just reminding them that, I still believe in what you're trying to do, and if I can help in any way, let me know what I can do, and just combining forces is something big too.
Yeah, Adrian and I do successes and challenges of the day. Mm-hmm. Usually that's like our reflection, but we of course talk through everything, and it's really just important for me to try to be present. Mm-hmm. I feel like social media has been thrusted into me constantly by every angle.
Right.
People, fans, but also family, my god babies. Mm-hmm. It's like I need social media in so many ways.
Yeah.
I need it. But also I want to be present. And the reason why I need social media is because a lot of the things I want to be present with, I can't be.
Right. Exactly.
I can't be in New York. I can't be in LA. I can't be in St. Louis. Not all day. But on social media, I can be.
Yeah.
But then again, it stops me from being present here.
Right.
That's my challenge. I think my biggest challenge with relationships in general, not just Adrian and I, because I think both of us would be sitting down and get caught up in our phone randomly, but we are good about pulling ourselves out of it. If we go somewhere, we went on a date downtown Atlanta, we're good about keeping our phones in our pockets. That's not a problem in our relationship, but just while working on myself, social media has been this battle for me. It's been this hard fight.
Right.
And I know that it's me who's fighting. I know that it's me who's constantly talking about it. I know it's me that's adding that extra stress to my day-to-day because it's very easy just to not ever use it. You could really easily just never turn it on.
Right.
But with all of those things I said before, I turn it on because I yearn for those human interactions.
Right.
Those places. I miss sitting by the Mississippi River on lunch breaks. I miss passing the arch or driving past Busch Stadium downtown. Mm-hmm. I miss Umami Burger in LA. I miss driving down Mulholland Drive and seeing Universal Studios.
Yeah.
I miss going down the 101 from the Valley into Hollywood and seeing the W and seeing Hollywood and seeing all of this incredible historical landmarks and places you see in movies. I miss that. I miss so much. And social media is this blessing.
Right.
That I can see that stuff. I can feel that stuff. I can remember that stuff. But then also, people have been so successful on it that I see their success and it makes me compare my success to theirs, which is the ultimate sin.
It is.
And it makes the whole thing feel like I don't want to be a part of this.
Right.
And it's hard. It just continues to be something I have to work on, which essentially wraps into me working on myself to make sure I'm in a better place for my relationship with my wife and the people around me.
Mm-hmm.
How about you? In any way, do you think it gets between you and your partner?
There are times it does. Social media is definitely its own animal, and it's hard to keep yourself from, again, like you said, comparing yourself to others.
Yeah.
It was meant for, seeing your family and being able to connect. And I think it just changed into a
capitalist society.
Yeah, I have to basically, I have to showcase, what I'm doing next, who I am, and prove why watching me is more important than watching somebody else. Instead of just kind of, showcasing who you are and your talent, it just became more of a, how can I grab your attention more than somebody else? Or even, I get it, but sometimes the posts that are like, everyone's going to see this and scroll past it. The like, what is that called? The self-pity post? Is that a self-pity post? I don't know, where it's kind
I
of
mean,
like,
it feels like that when it like, if you pass this up, God's gonna strike you down bullshit. Yeah, and it's like,
something like that.
now I gotta look at it. Yeah.
It's like, when it should just be, I mean, it definitely does hinder relationships at times. Going back to the time of being there for your partner is important because, there are times in social media and I'd be like, oh, we haven't really talked about XYZ today. Or then I'm down about like music maybe that day because I saw a post and saw something. It was like, man, I deserve to be there. I know that I have the talent to do this. And why haven't I done this? And why am I not, I should have accomplished getting this, and this done. And I do believe that social media can be a hindrance, but I try to look at it as, again, just a space for the people, my fans and friends and family to see what I'm up to and how I'm doing, and not more of a bragging space, more of a, here's what we have accomplished together, and I'm only going to continue keep trying. So I would love for you to be with me on this journey.
I don't think I really had this conversation on the pod, and I think it's important and it's exciting to talk to someone like you who has truly gone through this change. The sacrifice of being married and having kids and actually building a life outside of college, outside of your career, just your family. How do you feel that has changed you as a person, as a businessman, and just like you said, as a father and husband, the things that you kind of have to put behind you? How has that changed your personality? And is it something that you kind of miss, or do you not even think about it? You just do it because you know you're supposed to?
Well, that's an excellent way to put it. The sacrifice, if you want to call it that, and I think it's a good word for it. Yes, it's a sacrifice because you're giving up certain aspects of your life. You're giving up doing whatever you want, whenever you want. You're giving up that solidarity, but it's hardly a sacrifice when you consider what you're getting in return.
Yeah.
And the sheer joy that you experience from first sharing your life with someone else, someone you love, and you know all about that. Also, the sheer joy you get from having kids and raising kids. And my daughters are 4 and 7, and my 4-year-old still, whenever I get home, will run to me and leap into my arms. And I've always kind of made a point, but especially in seeing my 7-year-old, not that she isn't happy to see me, but she's just starting to lose that kind of like childlike, oh, daddy, like you're the best, you can do no wrong. And so now, especially when my 4-year-old, I'm like, I'm just going to hold on to this for as long as humanly possible because I know it's fleeting. But no, the changes that you have to make are, whether you want to or not, we're all incredibly selfish beings up until, and for some people, well past, when you choose to, hey, I'm going to spend my life with this person. Now it's not about just me. It's about me and this other person, my spouse, my partner, whatever it may be. And then after that fact, when you two decide to bring another life into this world, now it's not about, hey, it's what's best for me and what's best for you. It's all about what's best for that little person.
Yeah.
And I'd like to tell you that, it takes a lot of work. And to a degree it doesn't, but it doesn't feel like work. It's not something you think about, at least for me, and I should just speak to how I feel, but it wasn't hard. It's not hard to sacrifice something for your kid because it's as natural as breathing. It just happens.
Yeah.
You have a kid, this kid needs X, Y, or Z, therefore you provide X, Y, or Z. and it's as natural as breathing in and breathing out. That love you feel for them, and I wish I could say I know what everyone else feels, but I can just speak to my own experience. That's very much how it's been for us. Is yes, there's times when it's incredibly frustrating, and especially early on, I haven't had sleep. I can't even take care of myself because I'm always worried about this baby.
Yeah.
And those are frustrating. But I don't remember, and this could be the warm glow of thinking back, I don't remember ever thinking like, oh, I regret having kids. That's never been a concept for me. I just, they're so wonderful, and they provide so much happiness to me and their mother that it's just never been something I consider. It's a little bit of a cheesy answer, but it's the honest truth, in that what you're giving up seems so minuscule compared to what you're getting.
Yeah.
And so all I can say is that, yes, there are sacrifices, but there's sacrifices that after experiencing raising a child, I can't imagine anyone not being willing to make those sacrifices all over again.
Yeah. I feel like more and more, especially now that, I don't have kids yet, I get this conversation from people where no matter what, it's always worth it kind of thing. You usually hear that cliche.
I wish I had a better explanation.
Yeah, but it's the same thing. You hear it, and it's one of those things where it's just like, it's just, that's what it is. So it's cool to hear that response because, like I said, I do recall growing up with you and seeing the different things that we were going through, and to be where we are now, both of us. We're miles ahead of where we were, which you should be, but you'd be surprised how many people haven't changed. You'd be surprised how many people stay in that lane or even have kids and they still act the same. They don't really care that their kids are there. And it's, like I said, I'm just proud of you, man. It's really refreshing.
I appreciate that.
To see everything.
I got to say, speaking to our time spent together in college, thank God social media wasn't as prevalent then as it is now. Where it's very, it's entirely possible I wouldn't have this job. So thank God that the only thing was Facebook and this brand new, and I have my flip phone, and maybe, look, it's got a camera. Thank God that was the era in which we grew up right before. Because now, I don't know.
You're retired. How, like on the scale from 1 to 10, I always bring this book up in the 5 Love Languages, filling your love tank. How do you feel your love tank is full now since dance isn't a part of it?
I honestly feel like it's fuller.
Good. Yeah.
I never thought I would say that because as a child, as a young girl, dance for me was, oh my gosh, it was therapy. It was therapeutic for me. I had some rough stuff going on when I was a kid, and I didn't feel like I could talk about it. I didn't feel like I had any way to express what I was going through, and dance gave that to me. Dance gave me my voice, kind of. So, if you were to ask 16-year-old Shannon, like, hey, do you see yourself not dancing someday and still being happy? I'd be like, oh, hell no.
Yeah.
No, this is my life. This is everything to me. But now that I've been through it and I've seen the entertainment industry as a whole, my heart is so much fuller now that I'm out. A lot of performers go through so much turmoil in the industry because you're constantly told you're not enough, you're not thin enough, now you're not heavy enough, well, now you're not buff enough, well, now you're too buff, now your hair has to look like this. It can always be better. You can always be a better version of yourself. I went through so much. I had an eating disorder at one point, which looking at me, everyone would probably be like, oh my God, Shannon, why? Because I've always been the skinny friend.
Yeah.
I'm thin. And then one contract I worked, I was tired. I took 5 months off. I said, I don't care. I'm making good money. I can afford to take 5 months off.
Yeah.
I went to Italy with my partner at the time, and I gained a lot of happy weight. When you're really happy with your partner and y'all are just eating meals together, dating all the time, you're just both getting fat and happy. And I gained like 30 or 40 pounds for the first time in my life. I was like, whoa, who is she? I can't fit in these jeans. and the little me who used to get like chastised for being too small was like kind of happy.
Yeah.
Like I'm actually able to put weight on, but then I go back on contract and all the other girls are skinnier than me for the first time in my life. The other girls are more ripped than me for the first time in my life, and I get so insecure.
Yeah.
And no one was pressuring me to lose weight besides me and the fact that we had weigh-ins every week. There is that. Yeah.
Whoa.
They
Okay.
have since discontinued that. They have stopped doing that. But during, the first 5 years of my 6-year career, we did weekly weigh-ins. Every day on home port day, when the ship is its most stable, you weigh in.
Mm.
And it's mainly just so you can make sure you're still fitting your costumes.
Of
That's the
course. Yeah.
big thing is we can't be having people just readjust their costumes every week because you're gaining weight, losing weight. Either way, it ruins the costumes.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of to keep track of that. And I would say the bigger issue is keeping track of people not losing too much weight. But yeah, I ended up developing an eating disorder, which I now still struggle with because I have this idea in my head that I have to look a certain way.
Yeah.
So earlier when I mentioned that I'm soft now and we love her, I'm trying to love my soft body because I have this very normal body that is very beautiful and I love her. So we're being soft and we're eating and we're being healthy. Circling back finally, my heart is fuller now because I'm able to love me for me without thinking of the consequences. Am I going to fit in that costume? Am I going to be too small for that costume? Are my tits big enough? Is my hair long enough? Am I pretty enough? I don't have to think about that anymore. That's a big change. And it's still an adjustment, but it's a really cool feeling not to think about those things.
I want answers. I think that's the big thing with the whole fertility thing. I want answers. I want to know what's next. I want to know if there's anything I could be doing to help. And Adrian, of course, is going through the same struggles on her end as well. Like it's literally, we got the double whammy. Both of us are kind of struggling to know where our bodies are. And like I said, all I'm doing is, other than right now, eating really quickly so I can get in between podcasts. Of course, I got some pizza rolls and some tater tots here with a little soda. Horrible eating right now. But this morning I had a wonderful salad.
And you know what? You can do all that, right, bro?
Yeah.
I walk through the fire. So
Yeah.
like I'll tell people all the time, I'm like, bro, like if you want kids, if you don't want kids, whatever the case may be or whatever, you're gonna spend money on what you want, right?
Mm-hmm.
So at the end of the day, you figure it out. If that's what you want, figure it out. If you deep down want a child or whatever, you have to look yourself in the mirror. You have to realize, like, bro, I ain't in control of none of this. So whatever way is gonna lean me, that's just the way I'm gonna go. You're gonna have to be very flexible. The wind gonna blow this way, you're gonna have to go with it. And if it blow that way, you have to go with it. Do not like just take stuff off the board because you feel like you can't achieve that, or you feel like, oh no, I got this, I got that, because you're gonna look back and be like, damn, I didn't got that bread. That's why I be saying people like just have an open mind about this. It's not natural, it's not easy, it's not fun. But like I go grab you Jade and just she 5 months, she turned 5 months today. It go by fast. It's just like all these emotions that you deal with and finally getting something. So that's me saying, listen, man, like life gonna life and things gonna happen or whatever. But if that's deep down, you and your wife, don't get flustered. Oh, see, go here, go here. You have your bad days. That's fine. You're human, but don't let it fluster you. Sway, just sway.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, something beautiful will come about.
I feel like one thing that always happens with the trans conversation or bisexual, anyone in the LGBTQ community, whenever you talk, especially with queer, you talk about these things, it's portrayed in media, social media, everything, the negative parts, the negative interactions. This trans kid was murdered because of this. You see those stories 20 times more than you see someone saying they became trans and it changed their life and they are living the best life they can ever have.
I know.
And it's them living in their true self, and this is beautiful. So instead of lingering on the negatives or how you got to where you are and trying to help people understand, screw everybody else. This final part, I just want to talk to you and hear the positives. I want to know, have you had those moments where you sat down and you could smell the roses? Have you had those moments where you sat down and you was like, wow, if I wouldn't have done this, my life would be somewhere I could never imagine. This is the best thing I've done. How were those moments? How did you celebrate those moments? Did you have people with you in those moments? And truly just, what are the things that are in your life now that make it 20 times better that weren't there before?
I mean, honestly, what it boils down to most is just peace. It's waking up and feeling like a weight is just off of you.
Yeah.
Taking a walk in the park and just not thinking about anything, just being present and taking it all in and not having to be on edge. You know, I think one of the biggest moments was a friend and I went out to Zion back in September, and there was just one moment where I went outside and sat in a lawn chair and just like looked at this farm ground and the mountainscape, and I was just like, wow. Like I was able to get out here.
Yeah.
So much of that trip felt so like surreal that we were even there and doing it, but like that was just a very distinct moment of sitting down and just taking it all in. I've been really prioritizing like rest and just not pushing myself further than I need to, or like further than I'm capable of and sometimes. And like on one hand, my body is weak now. My body is weak. My body is it's I'm, like truly I'm part of it was that I was like, I want to see what my medication will do to my body naturally, and then like establish a kind of new baseline and go from there. But also part of it has just been, I'm enjoying my downtime. Coming out of the other end of that where I'm like, okay, I still want to dance. I still want to like make sure my body can like go on hikes and can climb the rock wall at the gym, like and can ride a bike and do all these things that I find so much joy in. And so it's almost like it's re-experiencing so much stuff for the first time. When I'm around somebody I'm attracted to, it's still like a fucking like a high school crush where I'm just like, oh hi, hello. You know, stuff like that. And I think that's lovely. I think it's exciting.
I'm on day 12, no caffeine.
You know, I didn't do caffeine for years. Now I'm back. I'm not drinking like cold brews anymore or triple espressos. I'm not doing any of that, but I am doing caffeine again. Going to Japan really reintroduced it to me because, you know, they do tea and did this green tea ceremony. That's what we did. So we went to this room. There was a couple other tourists and this lady in traditional clothing, and she gave us pretty much the small version of what it was. One thing I noticed she said early in the conversation is that when we do green tea, we do it in doses, because when we first started drinking it, of course, we looked at it as medicine. So we look at caffeine kind of like it's a medicine that we use to help us throughout the day. And I don't know what about that stuck with me, but when I heard that, I was like, you know, that's a good way to look at it. I look at it like it's the devil and I shouldn't do it. And I wanted to get away from it because it was a drug. And I'm like, no, I can't. But it was like everything is good in moderation. And if I could take 2 things of Tylenol, ibuprofen, I can do a cup of green tea, especially good matcha tea that comes from flipping Japan. So I sat there and I watched how they put it together. I watched the patience. I watched the routine. And I was already thinking of ways that I could change it, the ways that I could make it faster, how I could use a fork instead of the way that they mix it, or I could use my mixer that I use for my espresso. And I was like, wait. The whole point is to honor every part of it and do it traditionally. And that's part of your morning routine. That's part of your everyday. That's part of creating good habits.
Yeah.
And I sat there and I went through this whole thing by myself, going through this tea ceremony. By the time we were done, I was like, okay, so I need to get the dose thing. I want to make sure I get proper matcha from the right region that I liked. And I want to make sure that I get the bamboo stir that you get with it. I want to make sure that I treat it as sacred as it was introduced to me. And so now, when I make this, I didn't just get up and pour it into a cup and walk away. I made the hot water and I cleaned it up the way I'm supposed to do it. I'm not as delicate as they were, but I make sure I do my routine and I do a certain amount. I don't overdo it. And I'm very particular about that. I do 1 cup of orange juice in the morning. I do 1 cup of caffeine in the morning. And it's really been delightful. So props to you on taking some time from it, but don't look at it like it's horrible, because it can do some good sometimes,
I'm about to say, you talking about all that, just I fired off 3 things in my head that I immediately was like, oh, I want to touch on that. I want to touch on that. I want to touch on that. Kind of in the same way where you're like, it's a medicine.
Yeah.
And not viewing it as a medicine versus viewing it as a drug or whatever. Part of my problem, I think, and part of the reason I wanted to do this month was because I was kind of in a place where on average, I was consuming caffeine at kind of an alarming rate. Literally on average a day would be 600 to 800 milligrams.
If you were to do 600 to 800 milligrams of weed, you couldn't move. That's the way you should think about it. That's the way you should think.
And it was one of those things where I'd be like, I feel so exhausted and so worn out and wrung out and all this kind of stuff. And I kind of started to realize now it's keeping you wired even when you're trying to fall asleep and your body just can't. It's lost its reset. So that was a little bit of it. And so I'm feeling better. I still definitely wake up and be like, oh man, it'd be nice. I woke up this morning at 4. And it would have been nice to be able to get a Starbucks cold brew or whatever at, 5 a.m. or something like that. But I'm doing okay with it. And I'm kind of enjoying the kind of mental place it puts me in to be like, you don't need it. Push through for another hour and you'll be fine.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is you're talking about, so I've also been to Japan. I was mainly in Tokyo. You traveled a little bit more throughout the country, and I didn't get to do a lot of I was a little envious listening to you talk about taking part in the tea ceremony, because I didn't do a lot of spiritual things there. We did a lot of fun, crazy stuff that I thought was great. But there is something of being able to touch a culture in that way. And I actually, kind of interestingly, was talking to a friend who is Japanese, and she was talking to me. She has her stuffed animal from childhood. She's taking care of him for decades and decades, and has basically been I want to think that I've given him enough love right now that he's developed a spirit.
Yeah.
And I was taken aback a little bit, and I was like, what do you mean by that? And she was like, well, in Japanese culture, a lot of things are we want to put love and care into places and things and ceremonies and things like that. And we believe that, and I hope I'm not bastardizing this, but if we put enough care and love into something, it can develop its own spirit. And she was explaining too, the trees that you would see in Japan that have the wraps around them, I guess, what I mean? That have the bands around them. She was saying those are trees that are old enough and have had enough significance that they're believed to be gods now. That was a really interesting perspective on that, and care, because I specifically had an experience and a notice thing when I was in Japan, and I don't know if you noticed the same, but I'd get my Starbucks in the morning to go on our caffeine conversation, and I'd like walk with it and I'd drink it.
Yeah.
And then I'd be stuck with a cup for like an hour and a half after I was done drinking it because there were like no trash cans anywhere. They sit down and they enjoy their coffee. They enjoy their tea.
Yeah.
It's a thing that they've put work into.
And attention. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's not something like you pick up and go. And, you know, we have a lot of like trash everywhere and like trash cans out that are like overflowing. Living in LA, I see it all the time, you know, but it's encouraging to be like, this city of Tokyo that's like twice the size of LA is like so clean and pristine.
Yeah.
Purely because like it almost seems like it's just out of the perception of like, no. You've got food, you've got drink, you're going to sit down and enjoy it and give it its due attention. And like the other part of that was I actually had one where it's like had a cold brew and the ice had melted. And I just was like, well, I'm going to have this cup. I don't want to just like carry it around with the melted, you know, ice in it, the water in it. So I took the cap off and I poured it into a gutter when we were in like the fashion district. And then this woman gave me the like nastiest look. And I was like, oh, I'm sorry. I didn't realize I was my bad. Like, but it's like that has a purpose and you're just like dumping your trash into it essentially. And it's like, I was trying to hold on to the cup, but it was something where you're like, oh, this is just like a much different viewpoint. And I feel like so many people out here are just like, I grab the thing and I go and I'm on my track versus it seems like they are much more like, no, you take care of stuff.
Yeah.
You put love into it. It has significance, even if it's, not something that will affect you. Like this is a communal thing. We're all here. There is a lot of that we all could like take on more and be like, it's important to take care of your community, not just because it services you, but because there are other people there.
Now, every time I would see somebody in Japan and they would see me put something in the trash can, this is not an exaggeration. We were in Sumego. And we had just done the hike from Magome to Sumego. I was at the bus stop. Actually, Adrian was still up eating. And so I walked over and I threw my bottle. I was like asking people like, where's the trash can? I don't know what the trash can is. Mm-hmm. And the lady finally pointed to me and I put it over there. And this old man was like, thank you for throwing that away. And I looked at him like, okay, dude. But in his head, like you said, I'm an American. We're impatient. We move fast and, we don't care about anything. And that was one of those moments where he saw this black guy in the middle of Japan truly trying not to just litter. Like, hey, I'm going to really find the trash can. And I asked 4 people and he watched me. And that's just something so small. But that attention is something that they're kind of shown from day one. It's put into their brain. I took that away from that trip more than I took from any other trip I've taken. When I went to the Bahamas, when I went to Mexico, when I was in Ireland, Japan really captured my imagination on what America truly could be. I want to talk about something you said before, and this will be the last thing I ask you about because I think it's very fascinating and it's something that I relate to. Mm-hmm. I feel like there's so many times where in my friend group, starting in elementary school, all the way to middle school, high school, college, now life. Mm. I feel like there were like 5 Dominiques. Mm. There was the musical theater Dominique.
Yes.
There was the black friend Dominique.
Yes.
There was the football friend or basketball friend Dominique. Mm-hmm. There was the music Dominique, which is different than the musical theater Dominique.
Yes.
And then there was the show choir Dominique. Like there's all these different people within this person. There's the comic friend Dominique. There's the guy who would go and drink at the whiskey bar. There's the guy who goes to the cigar lounge. There's this guy who are in so many different circles. And as a performer, especially a multi-talented performer where you have to do different things. And I don't want people to look at me like I'm stuck up with something. I am a BFA musical theater graduate. Music, dance, acting. That's what we're supposed to do. I'm saying I'm multi-talented because I was trained to be multi-talented. Get off my back. With that being said, in that world, you go out into the world, and in LA, I have a crew that is in TV, and I'm cool with them, and those are my TV friends. But then in LA, I had my open mic scene friends that I would see at all the open mics, and I would go perform with them. And then I would have the people that I would do musical theater with. And then I would have the people I would do cabaret with. Like it was all different groups within performance. I just always felt like I was being yanked or forced or not even forced. I had to kind of jump into these different pools. Yeah. Because as a performer, you can't truly just get what you need in one space unless you really do focus in on just songwriting. I'm just songwriting. These are my songwriting friends, and I'm just going to stay with them. How do you maintain that? Because I still think I struggle with that. There's real world Dominique, my married life, where we're renovating the bathroom in our house right now.
Yes.
And people see us, and we go to family events and have game nights, and we do real world stuff,
Right.
real people stuff during normal business hours. And then there's Dominique, who gigs with the wedding band, and that's artist Dominique. That's the guy who's constantly out here grinding every weekend trying to make someone's wedding the best day of their life. And then there's songwriter Dominique, who goes to the open mics, who performs his own music, who produces his own shows.
Yes.
And there's podcast Dom. I'm doing this. This podcast has developed a whole different group of people, a whole different friend group, a whole different fan base, a whole different life. How do you operate all of those different groups? How do you keep yourself on the straight and narrow to do the things that you love? Is it a struggle, or is it something that you're passionate about and excited about?
I think it's always something, if you don't feel like you don't have something to work on, you need to like step back and reevaluate. There should always be something to work on, especially not even just as an artist, but as like a partner, you know, in terms of my relationship, as a friend to those other relationships, to those platonic relationships, as a employee to my boss or anyone that I'm working for or working under, to my colleagues, to my collaborators. If you are, you know, able to set aside time to reevaluate those relationships, but also reevaluate your relationship with yourself, I think that makes it easier to make them all, if not coincide, then at least coexist, which I think can be the hardest thing. Because it's like, you know, just like someone could be listening to this and they could have never done a show, or they could have never, you know, sung a song in their life or danced in their life. And if you take two of your friend groups and you have a party and those two friend groups are at that party, it's weird. It feels weird. The energy is very like, I don't know if this was a good idea. Because it's like, I think it's something that's also sometimes shunned, but it shouldn't be. I think it's very human of us to act a certain way with certain groups of people and act differently with other people. It's like, you know, you're not going to have the same type of back and forth with me as you would like your parents, or as you would your wife, or as you would, you know, with like a literal child. Like it's very different. Our relationships are always ever changing. And I think in terms of me balancing those relationships to the people that know me from those circles, but also those versions of myself that I think in some ways have passed and in some ways are emerging. Like I think a lot of my musical theater friends and my musical theater side is still an active part of my life, but it is most definitely secondary as it relates to like my songwriting or like my music. You know, I would say like music Kaylin is like here, and then like MT Kaylin is like here. You know, there's also a part of me that wants to know if those things can all exist simultaneously, which is why I perform. You know, I will always credit myself, because I've worked hard to make it possible and to make it happen, as being a great performer. I'm badass on stage because I not only am singing my face off most of the time, that doesn't mean singing high, to be clear. I'm singing with intent and performing with intent, because that's what feels good. And I think when you are intentional with yourself around people that make you feel good, that makes them feel good. So being really invested in that authenticity, even if it's 5 different versions of your authenticity, that's also what helps you like maintain that balance with people. I think also we outgrow people, especially as artists, because if you are someone who is constantly shooting to be better or wanting to be better or wanting to grow, there are some people I know who peaked 5 years ago. I don't talk to those people anymore. I don't do not fuck around with being with people who don't challenge me. I like being with people who make me want to be better and make me want to actively work harder at being not just a better artist, but being a better human, because I think some of the best people that you can meet are some of the best artists that you can meet as well. Searching for that as well, searching for and allowing what feels good to come to you, and those people will follow as well.
I want to thank you for listening to the Black Man Talking Emotions podcast. This has been just a thrill to be able to go back and revisit some of these conversations. And I'm so thankful to everyone who has taken time out to talk to me, people who have taken time out to listen, people who have shared these episodes with others. Thank you. I just think it's important. Conversation and communication is the thing that's lacking the most in people that I meet now. And it's harder to make new friends because people are afraid to talk. And it's so weird. It sounds like I'm an old man, but it's true. People are. We live in a weird place right now. So thank you to everyone for giving me time to talk and be excited and look forward to different things. Everyone I spoke with on this one, starting with Storm, aka Storm, my guy. He's doing big things right now, and I'm so proud of him. Out in Europe performing right now. Shout out to Storm for doing his thing. Shannon O'Keefe, thank you so much for your words. Jeff Holtmeyer, my guy, thank you very much. Jake Buckenmeyer, another friend of the show. Chris Bates was on this one as well. Thank you very much to Chris Bates. Shout out to Liana Walker. Thank you for being on the show this year. And Bovell, my girl Bovell, thank you. Make sure to go support her music and all the things that Bovell do. And I'm just saying her artist name so that you can find her. And of course, you can go back and listen to all of these episodes with all of these people. They're all in the timeline. And I don't make any of these shows based on one time. You can usually go back and listen to the episodes. We don't really talk about everything that's going on in a day specifically. Sometimes it might be political and mean something to one point, but most of the time we try to just stick to topics and what's going on with that. So if you have any type of idea, or if you're working on something, or you just need someone to talk to, reach out. Let me know. I'm always open to having a conversation. Make sure to subscribe to the podcast and share the podcast and give us a good rating. 5 stars, please. And thank you. You can support the show by clicking the link at the bottom of the episode description. I want to collab with people. Make sure to reach out if you can. You can follow me at DOM_LAMOUR on Instagram or at DomLamour.com. I'm Dom Lamour. Much love.